G'day guys, Matty Extreme Auto. Welcome to another off-grid setup. This is on another urban. We've had a few of these lately. And it's a big off-grid package. So this setup will allow these guys to run their air conditioning, their microwave, toaster, kettle, induction cooker, washing machine, microwave, pretty much the full show, all from batteries. And this van already came with a substantial amount of lithium. We've just made it better. So these guys approached us with a solar charging issue. This came with about 1,000 watts of solar on the roof, so 5 200 watt panels, and it already came with 600 amp hours of lithium, so two 300 amp hour batteries which were outside mounted down here. It had a 3,000 watt inverter, but just a very small one. The charging system was still factory BM Pro, so it's only like a 30 amp charger. It's only a very small charger. So, if they depleted that 600 amp hours, it would take quite a long time to charge from mains. We've just gone to town on it and made it so much better. It's all right here. So with this 1,000 watts of solar, the best he saw was about 28 amps in full sun in summer. Now, for those of you that are in the know, that's not right. You should be getting, in summer, as a real general rule of thumb, and it's pretty accurate when it comes to flat mounted panels, is every 100 watts of solar is about 5 amps of charge final. The panels are flat, the sun's never straight above, or very rarely it is, so he should have seen 50 amps at least from his existing array. Well, he only saw 28. So instantly there was a problem there that we had to rectify. So what I noticed was the way it was wired. These three 200 watt panels here are taken care of by the Victron 50 amp here. The remaining two are taken care of by the 30 amp controller. And we've added an additional three 120 watt panels on the front section. So another 360 watts. So these guys have 1,360 watts of solar to pump in their energy. Now they're going to be able to pump in well over 50 amps now quite easily. We're talking probably 60 to 70 without a doubt. And we've also done the DC charger, the Orion 50. So these guys are going to have 50 amps coming from the vehicle, or up to 50 from the vehicle, depending on what their tow vehicle setup is or what they're doing with that. If you're robbing that of too much energy, this will go up and down. So at its peak, this thing will pump in 50 amps. And then you've got 60 to 70 coming in from the roof. That's well over 100 amps of charge combined while these guys are in tow. That's a really good setup to go free camping. So 50 amp DC to DC charger, 30 amp charge controllers for the split arrays on the roof. There are 3 solar controllers for the roof, and we've got the multiplus 2 3000 12 volt 120 amp inverter charger, all factory integrated. So now this is a 120 amp charger as opposed to the factory BM Pro 30 amp charger. So we've got a charger 4 times the size now. So that means when they run a generator or they go to a station stay, whenever they plug into the grid at the caravan park, this thing will ramp these batteries up to a full charge in a quick amount of time. The battery relocation we've done, we've brought them closer to the unit. As you know, 12 volt current draws from the Victron multiplus can be quite high. So we like to have the batteries as close as practical to the inverter, and this is the big current draw. So we've put them through the tunnel boot vented, so that complies with the new standards, obviously. So those batteries now are kind of central, and they're less than, a meter from this inverter, as opposed to before, the wiring was huge. It was, 2.5, 3 meters. And if we can avoid having at such a distance, then we do it. Hence, we've done it. Added bonus, these guys are able to add an additional battery in line with what we've put in at the front. So they're 2 factory 300 amp hour batteries that that this came with. We've stacked them in a way that the third battery can be added should they want to later on. And we've done it nice and neat as well. We haven't impacted on their storage. In the front, the tunnel boot can still be used as a through boot. We've taken up about 650 mil long by 200 wide. So it's really slim and right up against this back wall here. And even under here, old mate's going to put a division across here, and he's able to use some storage, or even add a diesel heater later on. They can do that, vent it here and send the heat that way. It's a really neat setup. So all the LMI fuses are down here, the Busman fuses. 95mm cable, all the heavy duty stuff, hydraulically crimped. and ready to go. So factory integrated, that means all they got to do is hit the touchscreen and all of their factory outlets will run from this Victron multiplus. That's the microwave, the air conditioner will come on. As a backup, their Swift hot water service will run from this inverter as a backup only. It's not recommended to do it continually because it does draw a lot of energy. And, you know, in winter as well, running the air conditioner on heat, this thing will pull, 1,500 watts. So solar yields are quite low coming into the winter months. So running your roof heater, even though you can do it, it'll just smash a lot of energy out of the batteries, and you need to replenish that, which takes so much longer in the winter months because the sun is quite low. So there it is, guys, and we've bypassed the BM Pro. So when we do our setups, we give the customers the option to either keep this in situ or completely remove it. Yes, it's an added expense to remove it because we've got to replace it with a fuse box. We would have to rewire this system. You got tank sensors that are in there. You got to turn your pump on and off. You get your master 12 volt. Through our eyes, we don't like to remove it. Now, before the haters get on to me and say, just remove it because they are what they are. The reasoning is also this came out like this factory, okay? So the BM Pro screen still exists. You still turn the master 12 volt on and off from that screen. You still monitor the tanks from it, albeit nowhere near as good as the Mopica sensors or a Victron sensor in the tank. We'll get to that in a minute. But it keeps the factory, guys. Like this is a factory overlay. So the idea is this can be removed. If these guys sell this van and they want to take their batteries and their inverter with them, they can. They could put a smaller capacity battery system in, reprogram the solar so it charges at the appropriate rate, and they've got their, $7,000, $6,000 worth of stuff there that they can fit into their new van or whatever they do. And you can do that. So removing this can, it's got its benefits of keeping it. It's also got its benefits of removing it. Keeping it in situ, this is an urban van, so if these guys have a problem at 12 volt, they can still make a phone call to the manufacturer to get fault finding issues. Whereas if you remove that, you kind of have to start again, and the phone call would be with the guy that does all that fitting, which is fine. But BM Pro are actually really good to deal with. I'm not sure if you guys have made a phone call to them before, but they are excellent. They'll always walk you through a problem. If the touch screen doesn't work or something isn't talking to another product, they'll walk you through it. They've always been great. Now this thing still has a side solar input. So the side Anderson plug, we've rerouted and made solely only on the BM Pro. So the BM Pro does not do any more mains charging. It doesn't do any more vehicle charging. The only thing that is going through it is a side Anderson plug for portable solar. And the reasoning for that is because it's there and it saves the customer some money by adding another smart solar controller, which you could have done, and we would have taken up all the inputs on his serbo, and that would be the limit unless you go into a USB bus. But we're talking portable panels. I think this thing will run up to 500 watts. Maybe a couple of 100-watt solar panel will go into that without any dramas at all. And that's obviously programmed and set to lithium, which is compatible with this system. So Victron Smartshunt down there, there's all our LMI busmans. Everything's labelled and ready to go. You can see it if there's a problem, if someone wants to work on this. Everything is clearly labelled, and it just looks simple down here. So the old inverter was actually in this location, some orange thing, I'm not sure of the brand, but the old remote was here. So that's going to get removed and get replaced with a cover. Yeah, it's nice and neat, ready to go. The touchscreen, I like this one. Come with me. So we've done something really cool on this Urban, is we've positioned this Victron Touch 70 in this location directly opposite to the BM Pro screen. So here's your door as you walk in. Your BM Pro to the left for your tanks, because that exists, that system. And there's the Victron Touch 70. Same height, really easy to do. We were able to get that through there. We're very lucky. We had a cavity of about 40 mil, if that, to get this through. So we're very happy we were able to do that. And that looks absolutely neat as there, neat as a pin. So to control the inverter, simply just touch the screen, and up the top here gives you your grid current limit and then your mode. So the modes are on, charger only, inverter only, and off. On is auto. So on would be used for if you're free camping and you're about to plug into the grid, you would set it to on, because then when you get to the grid or your caravan park or a generator, it'll flick over automatically. but then keep in mind that it'll also go back the other way. If the grid goes down or the generator turns off, it'll automatically go to batteries. So I've got a bit of a rule: charger only for caravan parks and inverter only for free camp. If you work by that sort of stuff, it just makes things easier, and you won't get depleted batteries. An example is if you leave it on at the caravan park, right, and it's a really hot night, and you got your air conditioner running, it's 40 degrees, everything's on, you're about to leave to a free camp the next day, and then the grid goes down at 2 in the morning or something, it'll flick over to batteries without you even knowing. The transfer switch is that fast, it'll just flick over. So if you're leaving at 7, 8 in the morning, checking out, and your free camp's only an hour or two up the road, you've already started the day behind the 8 ball. And you would have depleted batteries, of course, because this is running during the night when there's no solar coming in. So the idea is having it on charger only allows you to make sure the batteries stay 100% charged when you're on the grid, caravan park. And if the power goes out, then that air conditioner would have turned off and not drained the batteries. You would have been just at 12 volt only. So, compressor fridge, which this one's got, lights, pumps, whatever runs at 12 volt would obviously continue to run. It's just the inverter would shut down, so that the grid wouldn't come through, and that's what you do. Now these guys, it's been really good to actually test this here because we are at a caravan park, and the caravan park owner just came around and said, "Oh, we're about to turn the power off." And I said, "Perfect. I've got the air conditioner going on heat here because it's freezing in Adelaide." So I left that to the on position, knowing that the grid was going to go down, that we plugged in here. And what happened was, the second the grid went down, you could hear the click on the multiplus, and it instantly changed over to batteries without this air conditioning turning off. It just stayed continually running. So cool that you can do that. But yeah, obviously know your pitfalls and understand the system. There's nothing wrong with doing it. We just try not to encourage people to have it on the on mode if you're going to be doing a lot of caravan stuff, because there will be that time when the grid goes down, and yeah, it's happened a few times, and you learn pretty quickly, I'll tell you that. What I'll do, I'll take you outside and I'll show you where the batteries were, and I'll show you where we've moved them to, so come with me. So the battery location was out here, chassis mount boxes, and everyone's got their own opinion and their own recommendations with putting lithium outside. If you read the spec sheet for most of them, the temperature rating is usually 5 degrees to 65 degrees. So in Australia, when we're camping, especially around the desert or the riverland, it'll get to 0 degrees quite often. And yes, the sun comes up and starts warming up the air and the ground pretty quick, but especially if they're going to be sitting on 0 degrees out here for a period of time while that sun's up. I don't know the longevity damage it does on the battery. I guess time will tell, but for me, I would rather have the batteries, especially if they're not cheap, I'd rather have the batteries in a controlled environment. And when I say controlled environment, I mean like a tunnel boot that's vented, cafe lounge area, sectioned off, not part of the habitable area, rather than outside here. I mean, there's other reasons. Well, you've got, there's no guard around this sort of setup. This is an urban where it's all flat, so you get the height, which is great. But when there's no wheel arch, if you smash through a mud puddle, you're going to get a lot of water and debris and stones and all sorts of crap flying around on those terminals. So you increase corrosion, and it's just, I would rather them in a controlled environment. I think it just keeps things in check better, and especially if there is a warranty claim on a battery, you don't want to have them say, well, you've subjected it to these conditions and whatnot. I try to adhere to the battery manufacturer's recommendations in all forms. So that's temperature, BMS discharge rating, which leads me to the battery. So I'll show you where we've put them. There's a tunnel boot, hard to see. So we've got room, we've actually got room for 2 more. So that's the center. So right up against that panel that sticks out, which houses a bit of wiring from the original install. These are the Baintech 12 volt 300 amp hour jobs. They've got a continual discharge of 250 amps. We haven't had a lot to do with them too much, but this van obviously came with them, and there was no point in putting other batteries in if not needed. The investment's already here. So I'll see how these go. They're all linked up, 95 cable. And yeah, it's hard to see, but yeah, vented off to the atmosphere. So this can be, you know, completely sealed, both sides, and then it's not part of the habitable area. The vent is, it's got like a filter on it, so dust ingress in here will be no longer. And with the solar on the roof, the additional solar we've done here, so these are the XO 120s, done 3 of them, quite neat. Hard to see it, you might be able to see the rest. We got 5 200 panels up there, all been rewired to our spec, running through our regulator setup and programmed by us because we know it works. So just this array on its own, angled, if the sun was, you know, if this was facing north, we're going to see 18 odd amps from this. And because it is angled, these guys have a bit of a advantage. So if they were to face, it's not a great angle, but if they were to face this north, they're going to see the peaks from this quite often. Even if the sun rises in, you know, the east and then kind of comes across, you're going to see some big power on this urban. So 360 and then 1,000, so 1360 watts here, guys. This is a beautiful setup. Can't wait to see what these guys get when the summer, spring months, when that sun gets a lot higher in the sky than what it is now. Right now it's there. I got more than a 45-degree shadow behind me, so yeah, you don't get much solar in the winter months. There you go. Nice and neat with this single bracket too here. And we run this powder coated bracket all the way across. We leave a gap on the edges here, of course, for water running off. And we do that both sides. And there's not one screw hole in any of this, none of it at all. That's what the sticker does, especially when you prepare the surface properly. They are not going anywhere. Doing it for years like this, and that's how it should be done. The only time you should have to put screws in the panel is if the brackets and the panel does not sit on the roof nice and flat, and you know, one of the corners lift up. You have to pin it down, you sandwich it, and you go to town with the sticker, and you don't get any problems. Big off-grid setup and upgrade on this urban. We've got 1360 watts of solar on the roof, 600 amp hours of lithium, triple solar controllers. That's 3 solar controllers, so 2 30 amp controllers, one taking care of the 400 watt array, the other one taking care of the 360 watt array, and the 50 amp solar controller taking care of the 600 watt array. Got the Orion 50 amp DC to DC charger for vehicle charging, so a combination of solar and vehicle charging to see well over 100 amps of charge for these guys. Got the Victron multiplus 2 12 3000 120 amp inverter charger, fully factory integrated, so these guys can run their air conditioner, their microwave, toaster, kettle, induction cooker, washing machine, the whole show, all off grid on the side of the road wherever you want. They can even run their hot water service as a backup if they run out of gas. This is how it's done. We love doing these jobs. We do them every week, and we have for a long time now, guys. We know how to set these things up to work for you. So if you guys want an off-grid setup, we've been doing it for many years. Let us know. Drop a comment. Check out the links and hit me up on the socials. Anyway, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. Totally forgot one little part of the job that we've redone. I'll take you into the top cupboard. So if you're aware with all the new standards with the solar isolation, you might see this in some of your cupboards now. Alright, now there's a couple of ways that they do it. So it's essentially just creating an isolation point between the roof and the system. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this panel. Alright, I just don't like to use it. Okay, so I like these no arc breakers. They're expensive, but they're so much more reliable, in my opinion, to isolate the solar from the system should that need to be done. Yes, on this setup here, you can kill this and it kills all of the arrays of the solar, alright? But these here, these are more, I think they're just more reliable. The contacts in them are better. These are like a fuse, like a, you know, you see these? So these are quite hard to get. If you're bush, that's a replaceable part. Now, I'll take it out for you. mean, obviously as time goes on, it's going to be more and more common that you're going to find these, you know, in the repair places. But right now, there's a very, very select amount of places you can get these from, and that'd be like your electrical wholesalers. So not many of the caravan mobs will supply these. So when it comes to the solar on the roof, having a resettable system like this, it's a no-brainer for me. It's right there. It's simple and quick, ready to go. So that's your solar isolation from the roof to the system. And if you're wondering where the fuses are for the solar panels, each solar panel has its own MC4 inline fuse. So if you've got 5 panels on your roof, at the MC4 connection point, there's an inline fuse that we install, and that's for every panel on the roof. That way, every panel is protected. In my opinion, a much better way than that. That way you can have your panels on your roof like that. You'll have your isolation, your no-arc isolators there, and you can isolate it whenever you want. You can actually isolate strings on this. So if I wanted to isolate this rear right one, all I got to do is turn that rear right one off. Very simple. Rather than a global one that turns them all off, you can isolate them separately on this. So there you go.